All right, hi guys. This is the first part of the mini unit that we are doing on how to use a formula with geometric figures to find parts of those figures that we need to find. It could be area, perimeter, it could be circumference if it's a circle. Basically, we just need to be able to use a formula, recognize a formula when we see one, and know what to do with it so that we can find any missing part that we need to find. So this is page 1 and 2 in the packet that you've currently got. Let's just look at maybe a definition for ourselves for a formula. It's really important that we know that a formula is an actual equation. It's going to have an equal sign, and all that formula does is it gives a relationship between different parts of what we're looking at. So it's an equation that represents maybe a relationship. It tells us how things are related to each other. But the big thing is that it's going to be an equation. It's going to have an equal sign in it. And we're going to start today with these notes with perimeter and area. So do you remember what perimeter is? If we've got a figure, let's say we've got this box right here, this rectangle. To find the perimeter, we would find the distance around the outside of it. So it's going to be the distance around the outside. So this side plus this side plus this side plus this side. And the area is going to be what is inside. It's going to be the amount of space inside a figure. I know you've worked with perimeter and area before, so this should not be new for you. So what it's looking at is, in the past, you've found perimeter and area just by maybe adding up all the sides or doing something to find the area. We want to make sure you know how to use a formula for area and perimeter because that'll get us used to the formulas that you're going to see for other shapes. So I'm going to scooch this down and just take a look at the steps to solving a problem using a formula. There's kind of 4 quick steps that we're going to do over and over and over again. The first one is we've got to find the formula that we need. We're going to write a formula down. Once we have a formula, we're going to plug in what we know. We're going to plug it in, and then we're going to see what's left. We're going to solve the equation to find out what we don't know. So there'll be a variable left, and we're going to get that variable by itself. And then the fourth thing is that usually with formulas, there's some sort of geometric measurement involved where we need to make sure that we're putting units in our final answer. This could be something like feet or inches, or it just depends on what's in the problem. If it's area, it wouldn't be just feet because area is the amount of space inside. So area might be something like feet squared, square feet, or centimeters squared, square centimeters. So the units depend on what we're trying to find in here. So let's go through and let's at least get some formulas first so that we know some basic formulas. And we're just going to start with 2 different shapes for today. We're looking at a rectangle and we're looking at a square. And we're looking at formulas for the perimeter of it, the outside, and the area, the inside. So the perimeter of a rectangle, we said it was just the distance all around there. So could we do like an L plus W plus L plus W? The L stands for the length and W stands for the width. Sure, that could be our formula, L plus W plus L plus W. Usually with perimeter for a rectangle, you're going to see it a little bit differently. You're either going to see it as, instead of L plus L, how many L's are there? There's this one and this one, there's 2 L's. 2 L's and how many W's? This one and this one, plus 2 W's. So you'll either see perimeter like that, that's going to be the most common, or you could see it as, well, I could add up an L plus a W and then multiply that times 2 because there's another L and a W here. So sometimes you'll see it as 2 L plus W's in parentheses like that. So most of the time we're going to use this one. You can also use this one. Those are both formulas for rectangles. So do you see when we talk about a formula, there is an equal sign in there, and there are a whole bunch of variables that are standing for different things. P is a variable that stands for perimeter. L is length, width, W is width. And then we've got some numbers in here too. If we talk about area of a rectangle, the inside space, do you remember what area of a rectangle is? It's going to be the length times the width. So A equals L times W, or could you just put LW? You don't need that dot in there for the times. So that one is a quick one. Okay, let's look at a square and do the same thing. The only difference is that squares don't have lengths and widths. Squares just have a side length. We call that S because all 4 sides are S long because it's a square. So the P, the perimeter of a square, is just S plus S plus S plus S. How many S's are there? 4. 4s. 4 times the side length. That's going to give you the distance around it. That's the perimeter. And then the area, instead of being length times width, is going to be side times side. But instead of putting s times s, what's a more efficient way to write that? We would say s squared. So these right here are the formulas that we are going to use for this whole practice. And every time we do a problem, we are going to start by writing the formula right here. So we're going to pick one of those every single time. All right, let's turn the page. And let's start with this. What shape is it, first of all? This is going to be a rectangle. So let's look at the first question. Find the perimeter of the rectangle. Now, guys, you could do this without a formula. I have complete faith that you could find the answer to this without using a formula. We're going to use a formula so you can see the process of doing it. So when we get to some harder ones, it's not a big deal for you to use this method. So can you tell me what is the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle? If you need to, pause it, look back on the page before, and find me the formula for perimeter of a rectangle. I'll show you real quick. Rectangle, perimeter right here. P equals 2L plus 2W. So we're going to use that. P equals 2L plus 2W. All we did literally was write down the formula right there. We didn't plug anything in yet. Step number 2 is plug it in, plug it in. Plug in what you know. What do we know? We know this side is 12 and this side is 7. Doesn't matter which one we really call the length and the width. It doesn't really matter. Usually the length is the longer one, but it wouldn't matter. I'm going to call this side the L, this guy the W. Can I plug in what I know? Do I know the P? I don't know the P yet. That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I can't plug in anything for P, but I can say 2 times L is 2 times 12, and 2 times W is 2 times 7. Notice I didn't do any math there. I literally just plugged in. Then the next step would be, let's get what we don't know. Look, the P is already by itself. That's what we don't know. This should be a quick one. Now we can just simplify the expression over here. What's 2 times 12? 24. 2 times 7? 14. And now our very last step is just going to be to add these guys together. 24 and 14, that's going to be 38. And we just don't want to forget to say 38 what? We were just adding up the outsides here, the perimeter, so it's all going to be in inches. That is our distance. So could we have done that without a formula? Yes, I hope so. But the idea is if you have a formula and plug in what you know, it's going to spit out what you need. Let's try that with just the area. Formula for the area of a rectangle. If you need to go back and flip, do that. The area of a rectangle is length times width, L times W. So write the formula, step 1. Step 2, plug in what you know. Do we know A? We don't know the area yet. Do we know L and W? Yep, 12 times 7. I just plugged in. And then we're going to do the math for this. So 12 times 7 is going to give us, what is that, 84? So we've got an answer now. We know the area of that rectangle is 84, but 84 what? What are we looking at? Inches. Except that it's area. Anytime you've got area, it's not going to be a length. It's going to be how many squares essentially are in the inside, how much space that takes up. So inches times inches would give us inches squared, square inches. That's how much space that takes up on the inside. So there's our final answer, 84 inches squared. Okay. Let's do 2 quick ones for squares, and then you can try this on your own and make sure you can start with a formula and plug in what you know. If we're looking at this lovely square, do you remember the formula for the perimeter of the square? Do you have that memorized? If not, go back and look. The perimeter of a square is side times 4, because there are 4 sides we're adding together. P equals 4 times the side, 4s. Next step, let's plug in what we know. Do we know the side length? Sure, that's the side length, 4.5 centimeters. I don't know P, that's what I'm trying to find out, but I know the side, 4 times 4.5. Okay, clear, 4.5 times 4, or 4 times 4.5 is going to give us 18. 18 what in this case? Centimeters plus centimeters plus centimeters plus centimeters gives us centimeters. 18 centimeters. And can we do the formula for this guy? Let's see, the area this time of the square, A equals, not length times width, but side times side, side squared. Now again, plug in what we know. The only thing we need to plug in is the F. 4.5 squared. All right, let's get this out and see. 4.5 squared, 4.5 times 4.5, not 4.5 times 2. 4.5 times 4.5 is 20.25. And centimeters, except that this is area, so it's going to be centimeters times centimeters, are centimeters squared. That's how much space that takes up inside. All right, so you are going to pause this, and on your own, try the guided practice. It should look pretty much just like my work looks up here. You should be able to see a formula. I should be able to look at your paper and see the formula first, then see you plugging in what you know, and then see a final answer with units. So I will move this down. You go ahead and pause it, and then I will go through the answers for this one really quick with you. Go ahead. All right. So coming back to this, let's check and see what you had. You had a square that had 6-inch sides. If you need to draw it, that's awesome. You can totally draw it, 6 inches for each side. We're finding the perimeter and the area of a square. So our formulas should look exactly like they did right up here when we were working with a square. The perimeter, 4 times S. So it's 4 times 6 in this case, which is 24 inches for the perimeter. The area is S squared. Side times side, side squared. So when we plug in 6 for S, 6 squared, and 6 squared is not 12, not 6 times 2, it's 6 times 6, which is 36. And we've got inches, except anytime you have area, it's not just inches, it's inches squared, or square inches. So that is perimeter and area of a square. This one, when my computer's closed, the top has a length of 14 inches and a width of 9 inches. That sounds to me like a rectangle. So something like this, 14 inches and 9 inches. And you don't have to draw the picture, but you are welcome to. So now I want to find the perimeter and the area of the top of my laptop. So now these formulas are going to be just like the ones we did up here. Here's the formula for perimeter of a rectangle and formula for area of a rectangle. So if I move back down, the perimeter of a rectangle, 2L plus 2W. 2 times 14 plus 2 times 9. That's going to give us 28 plus 18, which would be what? 30 plus 16 is going to be 46. Just inches, because that's just the distance around my computer. There's its perimeter. And the area, we'll go over here, is length times width. 14 times 9. I don't have 14 times 9 memorized. 14 times 9 is 126. 126 what? Inches, but since it's area, inches times inches are inches squared. All right, so there is the basics of how to use a formula. You're going to watch a couple more videos that look at how to use formulas for other shapes like trapezoids and triangles and parallelograms and use this exact same method.